If there's one thing that is going to literally completely kill your dreams, that one thing would absolutely be fear. Okay, there's nothing else that's going to stop your dreams more than fear, because fear is what keeps you stuck in the same reality, right? No successful person has ever achieved anything powerful by living their life in fear. It's just not how it works. If you truly want to achieve something powerful in your life, what you need to do is transcend your fears and learn how to use your fear to your advantage, because usually at the other side of your fear is exactly the life that you want to be living. That's just usually how it is. The fear is what keeps you stuck. The fear is what keeps you stuck in your reality. Now, where does fear come from? Fear comes from the ego. That's what keeps people stuck. Okay, so if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is actually to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, because I do post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one to let go of your ego, which is fear, by the way, so that you can live into your highest vision, I want you to hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation to see if you're a good fit for the coaching program. So what you have to understand is that fear will crush your dreams. Okay, that's just the truth. The truth is that fear is going to crush your dreams, because fear actually implies that you're living in fear. I'm not talking about facing your fears, which is an entirely different thing. I'm talking about living in fear and allowing fear to control your life. That's what keeps people stuck, when you allow that fear to control you. Because when you allow fear to control you, that means that you're living in fear. You're going throughout your day and you're continually fearing something that hasn't happened yet, and you're just sitting there or standing there or going through your life. You're living in fear. Now, I don't know about you, but that's not the way that I personally live. I don't live in fear anymore. Okay, I used to live in fear until I realized that at the other side of my fear, when you step into the uncertainty and the unknown, that is where your dream actually exists, right? That's just how it is. Everything that you've ever wanted will be at the other end of your fear. That is just the truth. Because when you face your fears, when you go against your fears, not by fighting them, but by moving through them, you actually learn how to actually step into your dream life. That's just the truth. So fear will crush your dreams. And I'm going to share with you why fear will actually crush your dreams, and why fear will kill pretty much everything that you want in your life. Okay, so the first thing in terms of why fear is going to completely crush your dreams is that fear actually feeds on fear. Okay, because when you're going through life, fear is something that feeds off of fear. So if you know people that are fearful and you're also fearful, well, then guess what happens? Those people actually feed off of each other, right? Fear actually feeds off of fear. Ego feeds off of more ego. That's how it works. So if you have friends that are living in fear, then you are probably also going to be living in fear. And if you're living in fear, you are going to attract people and situations that are also based on fear. Okay, that's just the truth. Now, can you see how that would possibly and pretty much always completely destroy your dreams? Because fear is not how you live into your dream. Fear is how you stay stuck. Fear is how you stay stuck in the same patterns over and over and over until you realize that you never lived your dream, and now you're living in regret and you feel guilty. See, fear leads to regret and fear leads to guilt, right? So fear feeds off of fear. When I was dropping out of school and I decided to start my YouTube channel and start my coaching business, you see, I knew in my intuition that I couldn't ask my friends or family if it was a good idea, because I knew that it would just not work, because they're going to project their fears onto me. Not because these people are bad people, not because I was judging these people, because you have to realize that people will project their fears onto you out of love for you. Now, of course, it's not the form of love that you might think as how you think love would actually manifest, but that's how the love manifests in that case. It's a projection of fear. And I knew that it was coming, because if you want to create something in your life, who are you asking for advice, right? That's the key right there. You really want to manifest something big in your life? Who are you asking for advice? Are you asking the right people? Are you asking the right mentors? Or are you asking people living in fear? Because if you ask somebody living in fear, well, then what's going to happen? They're going to give you the answer that's based on their fears projected back onto you. And then guess what? Now you're living in fear, right? Now you're living in fear. Now you have that fear within you that they had within them is now within you, right? That's a serious issue, right? That's a serious issue that can be completely avoided. Okay, totally. It doesn't actually have to be that way. Those fears, where fear feeds off of fear, can be completely avoided if you really understand the mechanism of the ego and how it actually works. Because here's the thing with the ego, is that the ego will keep you stuck. Because where does fear actually come from? Like, if you think about it, fear actually comes from the ego, right? So when you understand that fear comes from the ego, basically what I just told you is that not only will fear crush your dreams, but your ego will actually crush your dreams, because fear is ego, right? Fear is resistance. Now, what you need to understand, which is very critical, is that fear equals ego, which equals resistance. And then guess what that equals? That equals your dreams going down the toilet. Can you imagine, like, you take your dream, and this is your dream right here, and you throw it in the toilet and you flush it. Or you just take that dream and you just completely throw it in the trash. That is what you're doing when you live on fear. You're throwing your dream into the trash. Okay, if you don't want to throw your dream into the trash, then I suggest that you continue watching this video, okay? Because that's just the truth. Fear is a dream killer. And I can actually prove this to you by sharing with you my experience. Because when I was dropping out of school, I realized that there's two places we can go in life. Either you can follow the path of love, right? Love meaning presence and awareness and consciousness. Because when you say love, love is not always this lovey-dovey romantic love. Love is just a fearless state of consciousness where you're very present to the moment and you don't feel any fear, because you're totally fearless when you're present to the moment. When you see a selfless yogi, right, or Eckhart Tolle, or somebody that's totally selfless, they're also totally fearless, because fear is the self, right? Think about that. Where does fear come from? Fear comes from the construct and the self, right? So when you remove the self, which is, by the way, another term for the ego, right? You see how it's all connected? What you see is that you need to be selfless, which is also love. Love is selflessness, unconditional love. Now, when you align yourself with unconditional love, which is what I realized when I was dropping out of school, I realized that there's two paths we can take. We can follow the path of unconditional love, which is, of course, fearlessness, presence, awareness, consciousness, the truth that all religion actually points to. Or you can follow the path of fear, ego, hate, judgment, which leads to guilt and regret and anxieties and fears. Now, which path do you want to take? Now, of course, keep in mind, there is consequences to either path. Of course, there's consequences to following the path of love, because you're going to have to let go of yourself, right? The construct, the false self, which is not something that every person wants to let go of. Or you can follow the path of fear, and there's consequences to that. What's the consequence of that? You're living in fear. First of all, that's already a huge consequence on its own. You're living in fear, not a very happy existence to live in fear. So that alone is a consequence, right? Now, the bigger consequence is you don't follow the path of your dreams, right? So, I mean, you can weigh in your mind which one is a worse consequence: living in fear, or not following your dream, or feeling guilty, or feeling regret on your deathbed. These are all very real possibilities that are most likely going to happen if you follow the path of fear. Now, of course, following the path of love also has consequences, but the truth is that when you follow the path of love, personally for me, like, I can't tell you what decisions to make, but for me personally, I accept the consequences of following the path of love, right? What are the consequences? You have to let go of the self. You have to face your fears. You have to live in the uncertainty. You have to live in the unknown. You have to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. You need to go on the path, which is what some people call the hero's journey. And when you're going on the hero's journey, you may have to let go of a lot of things that you were holding on to before, right? You might have to let go of your old friends that were also living in fear, because now you realize that those old friends that were living in fear are no longer in alignment with what it is that you want to create. You might have to let go of old relationships. Maybe out of nowhere you choose to follow the path of love, and you realize that your job is no longer in alignment with you. Now, of course, I can't tell you what decision to make, but what I can share with you is that personally for me, in my experience, you see, I can't teach you further than I've gone along in my own journey, is that when you follow the path of love, there are consequences, but there's consequences to any path. And I prefer the consequences of following the path of love. So the second way that fear will completely crush your dreams is that it just leads to terrible actions. Okay, that's just, I mean, like, if we're gonna be honest here, you following the path of fear leads to incredibly terrible actions. When you're vibrating at a lower state of consciousness, the actions that you take are absolutely unacceptable. It's just terrible action taking. It's because when you're at that low state of consciousness, what happens is that the actions that you take from that state are very, very limited. Very limited. You don't have an expansive state of mind where you see the possibility of your dreams. You're you're completely in a state of fear. So if you're making any decisions in your life, I highly, highly recommend that you clear the mind first and you let go of your fear, because once again, fear leads to terrible actions. Absolutely terrible actions. Fear leads to very bad actions that will lead you down the path that you do not want to be on. Your soul, this is my opinion, okay? My opinion is that we came on this planet for a reason, and that reason does not have to do with following the path of fear, unless you choose that path for yourself, okay? Now, you can choose that path of fear if you want, you can do that, but why? Why would you choose the path of fear when you can choose the path of love? Because fear leads to terrible actions. Like for me, if I was to follow the path of fear, I would stay in school doing something that I hated out of fear of my dream not working out, right? That's what it is. When you follow the path of fear, you're living in fear of something else not working out. Now, the longer you do this, the more anxiety you're going to build up in your system because of the lack of action that you could be taking on your dream, right? This can create a lot of anxiety. This can create a lot of stress because you have this dream at the back of your mind that you're not taking action on, that you could be taking action on, but you're not. Why? Because of fear. Now, just to make this video a little bit more practical, what you need to understand is that in the present moment, fear does not exist. Okay, when you're fully in the now, when you're fully present to the moment, when you're in the frequency of abundance, you can call it, which is just another human label, there cannot be fear. Fear can only exist in a lower state of consciousness where there's too much attachment to the mind. You have to step out of the mind and enter your heart. When you step out of the mind and enter the heart, now you can make better actions. I don't know if that's English. Make better actions. You can take better actions that are actually based on love, confidence, fearlessness. Look at every single successful person you actually look up to. You'll notice there's a common theme. There's always family objections. There's always some story where the people around them, weren't always supporting them. They were coming from poverty. Don't play victim. Victim is not going to get you out of there. Every single successful person has went through their fears. And not only did they go through their fears, they used that adversity and that fear to propel them and create a catalyst for their vision. You see, fear is not an entirely bad thing. One thing that I noticed is that fear as a whole can be a teacher, not in an explicit way where the fear, stands up as a person and teaches you. The person that, is fearful is not going to stand up and teach you lessons one-on-one. Maybe they will, but in a more subtle way, fear can actually teach you a lot of lessons. When you're in the environment of fear, you can use that if you're smart enough, if you're present enough, if you're conscious enough, you can see that fear is actually something you can use to your advantage in a very, very counterintuitive way. You could use it to propel your dream. Only when you understand the contrast between fear and love, now you know which path to follow, right? Because when you can notice the difference, okay, I'm either living in fear or I'm living in love, now you can see that there's an either or. Either you're in the presence of love and the path that you want to follow, you're in the presence of money, you're in the presence of abundance, you're in the presence of presence, you're in the presence of the present moment, which has no fear, or you're living in fear. Now you choose the path. You can really choose which path you want to take, right? Are you taking actions based on fear? How would you live your life if you had no fear? Okay, that's the question. That is the question. How would you live your life if you had no fear? Now, what you'll find is that when you take the path of no fear, which is of course the path of love and consciousness, what you see is that you start to experience synchronicity and alignment with your highest vision, which is exactly what I teach in the awareness shifting course. Actually, it's called the Raise Your Vibration course right now. And it's also what I teach with all my one-on-one clients, right? You need to see that living in fear will crush your dream. Just crush. Once again, you take that dream, you're throwing it in the toilet. You're just throwing it in the toilet. You're taking that dream and you're literally those compressing machines where you see those YouTube videos where they crush things. Imagine you're taking your dream and you're just crushing it. You're crushing that dream. That's what fear does. Now, of course, I'm being metaphorical here. On a more real note, you're going to live such a life that you do not prefer to live if you're living in fear. You're going to have so many regrets. You're going to have so many negative memories of things that you could have taken action on. Why let that happen if you can just follow your dream now? By the way, the only moment that exists is now, right? Now is the only moment that exists. Check out the power of now. You need to see that now is the time to take action on your dream, because now is where the no self state exists. No self. The Buddha once said, no self, no problem. Okay, what does that mean? That means that self, which equals ego, creates negative experiences in your life, right? That's what creates the problem, because the mind creates problems. When you live too much in the mind and the mind is not aligned with the heart, you're living in fear and you are blocked from your dream. So the third thing you need to know in terms of why fear will crush your dreams is that your dream is literally the opposite of living in fear. It's the opposite. Take everything that fear is, your dream is the opposite of that. Once again, what would you do? What actions would you take if you were fearless? For me, if I was fearless, drop out of school, go full-time on YouTube, create my coaching business doing what I love, despite family objections, despite student debts, despite, not having enough money in my bank account. You see, these are the things the universe will test you on. Are you serious about trusting the universe? Like, when I was going through my spiritual awakening, for the longest time, I was trusting the universe, right? Trusting the universe. But then when it came to actually following my dream, could I still trust then? Could I still trust? Now the question is, what actions would you take if you had no fear? That's always the question you got to ask yourself. If you were totally fearless, what actions would you take? How would you be living your life? How would you be going through it? Like, what would you be doing if you had no fears? Okay, your dream is the opposite of fear. Once again, take everything that fear is, your dream is the opposite of that. Right now, of course, going after your dream means moving through the fears, right? Not around the fears. Like, imagine comets are hitting you. You're in a space, you're in a spaceship, you're going through space, and there's comets. What you do here is you let the comets hit you, right? You let the comets hit you. You might be thinking, what? What do you mean? You need to see that you have to let yourself be, you have to face that fear. You have to face that fear, because when you face that fear, that is where your dream actually exists. That's where that dream exists. Because if you don't follow that path of your dream, you don't face those fears, you're never going to be able to create what it is that your soul really, really wants to create. Your fears are going to block your dreams. I'm telling you, if you really want to create something powerful in your life to change the world, it's going to require you to live your life into your dreams, which is the opposite of fear. It's facing your fears. It's the opposite of living in fear. It's being an inspiration to humans, okay? You need to realize that you need to be an inspiration to humans, to other people, by showing them, lead by example, and show that you are not going to live in fear any longer. That is the truth of how to live into your dreams. I'm not talking about, just making a little bit of money here and there or doing this. I'm talking about literally creating your dream life. Okay, creating a life of financial abundance, creating a life that you love to live every single moment, where you don't wait for Saturday or Sunday or Friday. Every single day you wake up and you do what you want, when you want, and you make a living doing it, and you inspire people doing it as well, okay? That is what I'm talking about. But to get there is going to be out of the norm, the normal part of life. But think about it. What is really the norm? The norm is people living in fear. Normal people do not live into their dream. Normal people live into fear. So if you want to be normal and you want to go with the crowd, then by all means you can do that. If you want to be accepted by society, then that means you don't want to live into your dream. If you want to live into your dream, you need to accept that you'll be rejected by society for the first little bit. And then later, once you hit your goals, then everybody comes back and says, I actually believed in you the whole time. Well, now they believe in you because now you created what you want. But you have to see that you have to accept that you're going to have to go on your own little path for a while if you want to create your dreams, which means that fear will be projected onto you. You may have doubts, you may have worries, you may have anxieties, but at the end of the day, you are going to follow your true path and nobody's going to stop you because you're not allowing fear to control your life. Okay, that's just the truth. What I'm sharing with you is the truth. This is not a watered down video. This is the truth of how fear will destroy your dreams. Okay, so that's live for this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one to let go of your ego, let go of your fears, let go of the lower vibrational emotions so you can step into your highest vision and create the life that you really want in your business, in your health, create something powerful that you actually want, then you can apply for a free consultation by hitting the link that's in the description box of this video to see if we're a good fit for each other and to see if you're a good fit for the coaching program. Have yourself a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.